Hello guys, and you're welcome back, and I sincerely apologize for the long video. So this time around, let's go ahead and begin to animate our elements. Now, if we move the playhead, you'll actually realize we lose our drawings. That's because we need to do the same thing we did with the background. So here on our, I think I should call this art. I just double clicked on it and renamed it. That's how we can rename our columns. And again, I'll get rid of the safe area. So I'll just go to view, turn off safe area, and I'll make sure I'm on the select tool by either pressing S or just clicking the select icon, and you can select any shape or element you want. So the way we're going to animate this is to just move the objects by changing the position and rotation. And we're going to do that for few objects. And we have a simple rule of thumb. We don't want any object to overlap and go into another object. But there's a little problem here. If we actually zoom in on, let's say, this smiley face. So I'll just hold spacebar and drag so that the focus will be on this smiley face. If I click on this and move this, this is a separate element. This and this are both separate elements, and these are separate elements. If I'm to animate this, I'll have to animate each of those individual elements on their own, which is terrible, and it's going to be extremely hard. And what I want to do is to click on this first frame, hold this, and then drag this to frame 48. That way, when we click on loop, we're changing frames, but our drawing is holding. If I go to this custom room, we can actually see it more obviously here. So if I loop this, we can actually see we're just holding our drawings. I'll get back to the drawing room. So how can we solve this problem? How can we take what we've drawn and tell OpenToonz that this is part of an entire group? Well, that's the thing, group. So let's click this, and then let's hold Control. Click on the Shift, actually. So click on Shift, you'll see a little plus sign appear, and then click on every shape you want to be part of that shape. And once that's done, all we need to do is to press Ctrl G, and you'll see a blue outline. So anytime you see a blue outline around a shape, it simply means that shape is now part of a group, and what we can do is to apply the effect or whatever we want to do with that entire group. It's going to see this as a group. And the cool thing about working with groups is we can isolate this group. For instance, I can just double click on this and isolate that. So now we're in that group and we can see our group elements. We can click away and get back to the main group. That's totally nice. So what I want to do is just move a few frames, and then we'll change the position, say here, and then move a couple frames, change the position here, but that's not actually working. So how do we animate this? And we're going to animate this using the animate tool. So let's see how that works. So it's the first one here, and let's click on this object, and if we do this, the animate is going to take the entire layer, and we don't want that. So how do we solve this problem? We need to cut out every large shape we need to work with on a separate level, and we can play around with that animation on that level. So let's just quickly use the animate tool. So the first option here is the position, and it's actually looking at a specific layer. It's looking at the art layer. So if I'm to move this, moving a few frames, let's say frame 18, and drag this slightly to the top right, and then go over to 42, and then drag this back like so. If I hit the loop button, we're going to see our objects move slightly to the right like that and keep looping, which is not something super bad. But like we said, we wanted to animate each separate element. So this is how we're going to do this. So I'll go back here and we'll start cutting out and separating this. Now this time around, I'm going to do a couple of examples, and to prevent the video from being extremely long, it's going to be the same process over and over and over again. So in that case, I'll stop the video or speed up the video so that you actually get to see what's happening. But I'll make sure I do the first two examples just so we have an idea what we're doing. So let's go back to the background, to the art layer, and I'll go to the select tool and select this group. Remember, it's a group, and I'll cut this group. It disappears, but stay with me 1 second. So let's create a new vector level, click OK. I think I'll call that the sun, and I think I'll use caps just to make it really clear and easy to see, and I'll paste it back, and I'll paste it back. Good, now it works. So now we have the sun on its own group. So what that means is we can now easily use the animate tool to animate the sun. So here I'll just click and drag this to make sure it stays in the entire frame, and I'll hit the animate tool. Will it work if we change the position? So let's say we drag it here and move a couple frames and drag it back here, move a couple frames and drag it back here. So let's see that in action. It's actually not working because the entire thing is being animated, and because we have our shape separately, so it won't work. So that doesn't work. So how do we solve that problem? I'll do Control Y to redo. So Control Z is undo, Control Y is redo. And here's the thing, I don't really like this animation, so I'll click on this key, hit delete, click on the next keyframe like that, and we can even select all the keyframes. So I'll select this like that and delete all these keys so we don't have any animation on that layer with the animate tool. So I'll just go over here and you can see nothing's moving again. We've gotten rid of that key. In fact, I'll lock the art layer and the background so I don't accidentally animate anything on those layers. And I'll go back to the sun layer. So I'll move a couple of frames and then I'll hit the animate tool. And what I'll do is to click this drop down, and I go to center and click this because I want this to be at the center of the object. So like that. I just click the plus button to zoom in. And like I mentioned, we can also zoom in and out using holding Control and Shift and spacebar. If you push it up, you're zooming in. You drag it down, you're zooming out. Like that. Holding Shift and Control. Power tip for zooming in and out. So now we've centered this, let's go ahead and click on our position. And what we're going to do is to drag this down a bit and then go a few frames and push this up a bit and go a few frames and to just move this around and go a few frames and then push this back. And let's just play this. And what I can do is to start this from the beginning. So I'll drag this keyframe here and drag it to the start, right? So if we hit play, we can actually see our object changing position and restarting like that. And for the last frame, I'll just drag this to the ending. And let's loop. Like that. We can change the easing and ease out, but just look at that. We actually have one of our objects just floating and animating itself away. So here's what you're going to do. And here's your assignment. I'm going to do another one, but after this, you're going to be on your own. No more hand holding. So let's do another one. Let's do two more, actually. Let's do two more. So let's click on the padlock to unlock our background, because that's where we have our repository that has all our artwork. Hit S to go to the select tool, and let's pick any shape. I like to pick this cup. So first, remember the first step, we need to group the cup. It's looking at me. I don't like the way it's looking at me. It's like it's alive when it's looking at me. So let's go over here, click this background, click this. We're not seeing anything. Nothing's happening. Why is nothing happening? Okay, that's super strange. So I'm getting a very funny things happening here. I cannot select any of these objects. So OpenToonz is buggy sometimes, and here's why. Sometimes when you do the autosave, it just stops the application from working for no reason. So what we're going to do is to save this. So I hit Control Save, and I'll restart. So, and basically to restart the application, all we need to do is to make sure we save all, and then let's go to quit, and we'll just start the program again. So I'll go here to OpenToonz and click and restart OpenToonz. And hopefully it actually gotten rid of that problem. So it's going to open our last project. I'll just click the 100 doodles, and let's try selecting something. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm dumb. Yeah, it's a mistake. Really apologize. And I'm not going to edit this. I'm not going to edit this because this is a joke on me. I was clicking the background layer. I needed to go to the art layer. That's why nothing was selecting. All right, so let's just zoom in. And this is the art layer. Actually, that's the background layer. This is the art layer. Our art over here. This is where we have the artwork, not the background. So you can see we can select other objects. So let's zoom in and group any other object. This one. So I'll just select this, and holding Shift will select every other element, so we can just group them together. I'll zoom in, and now that we have the burger selected, let's hit Ctrl G to make the burger a group. So that means we can select the entire group, and you can see we have the burger selected, and we'll cut out the burger, and we'll create a new vector level, and we'll paste the burger here, and we'll just call that the burger, like so. And with the burger selected, we'll just try to create the animation just like we did earlier on. So I'll hit the animation tool, click on the center, and I'll click this button to make sure that's centered, and I'll drag this to place this just to say this is where we want to center our object. I'll hit the spacebar to get to the hand tool to drag this, and what I'll do is to hold the burger for the entire frame, and next I'll just move a couple of frames. I don't really like starting at the beginning, so I'll just move a couple of frames and then switch over to the position, and all we need to do is just move our burger slightly, like that, and eventually we just move it a little bit like that. And let's test things out and see. So I think that's okay. So let's just have the bigger picture. So we have some of our elements moving, not every element. So I like to do the same thing for the whale. That's this gentleman here. So go back to our art layer. Don't forget your art layer. And let's group the whale. Excuse me, guys. So let's group the whale. So I'll hold shift and select every element of the whale. I think we got the whole whale, so let's hit Ctrl G to group everything. And let's cut the whale using Ctrl X. Let's create a new vector level. And let's paste our whale. Let's call the group whale. And let's just hold the entire frame. Move a couple of frames. Now I'm going to start here. I just want the whale to move up a little bit and just stop. That's it. So hit the animate tool. I'd like to center this on the whale. Like that. Go to the position. And I'll just move him up. Or let's start the whale here. And then after a couple of frames, our whale has moved here. Let's restart this. Yeah, so we can actually see our elements moving. We have our burger, we have our whale, and I'm trying to change the entire timing. So for this whale, I'll just drag this and set the key to another position like that. All right, so I hope you've seen these simple examples. They're just 3 objects, and we're actually animating them to create a nice animated doodle board. So let's see what you can come up with. Remember, group elements and change the position and move them around, create keyframes and shift them. By the end of this, if you want, you have a lot of doodled elements. So I'm going to stop here, and in the next video, I'll show you what I've done, and hopefully we can learn from this. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next lesson.